Hello everybody on YouTube, this is Super Nintendo, and I got another episode of Let's Ramble for you. So, I've been playing a bit of Sonic Shadow Generations, specifically Shadow Generations in terms of this video, with it being relevant, and it's great, it is amazing. But it does kind of go in a bit of revisionist history with Shadow's backstory. And it got me thinking about the tragedy that Shadow's backstory really has. And I guarantee a lot of people haven't noticed this because I've brought this particular topic up to people online for the past couple of years. Nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about. So, I would like to kind of go over that a little bit here. So, the backstory of Shadow the Hedgehog, as told to us in Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow was created for some unknown purpose by Professor Gerald Robotnik, the grandfather of the series villain, Professor Ivo Eggman Robotnik. Shadow supposedly lived for an undetermined amount of time on the space colony Ark that orbits the Sonic version of Earth, with Professor Gerald's granddaughter and Eggman's cousin, Maria Robotnik. After some time, the Guardian Units of Nations,
Why so melancholy?
I believe that is the what the acronym GUN stands for.
So unlike you.
They decide to go up to the Ark and massacre everyone on the Ark. We aren't told why until the final story, but I will talk about the final story in just a minute. So, after Maria dies, she, with her final breath, pushes Shadow into an escape pod and presses the button before telling Shadow her final wish. What her final wish is not revealed to the player until the final story. And Shadow, for some reason, thinks that her final wish was to take revenge on everyone on the Earth. For this reason, he gathers the 7 Chaos Emeralds with the help of Eggman and Rouge the Bat. And after they manage to get the 7 Chaos Emeralds, the space colony hurtles towards Earth at an incredible velocity. It is here in the final story where we get the true story. According to Professor Gerald in the final story, Shadow was not created until after the event that killed Maria. Professor Gerald wasn't even on the Ark when this happened.
The colony was completely shut down, probably to keep the prototype from falling into the wrong hands.
The Ark was shut down under the premise that there had been an accident. I found Maria's name among those who died when the Ark was shut down. She meant everything to me, and I couldn't bear the thought that she died because of my research. I lost everything. I had nothing more to live for. I went insane. All I could think about was to avenge her. Somehow, some way. I got scared as I no longer was able to control my thoughts. All I could think about was that I wanted it all to be. Based on my original projections, I was able to complete my project, Shadow. I designed its mind to be perfect, pure. I will leave everything to him. If you wish, release and awaken it
If
to
you
the
wish
world.
to fill the world with destruction,
Everything Shadow knows is a lie. Everything he is aware of, everything he thinks he knows is a lie. And here's the thing, this doesn't just come out of nowhere. This is brought up in the Dark Side story in Sonic Adventure 2. In the Dark Side story, Rouge, she is a secret agent sent there by Gun to confirm whether or not Shadow is the ultimate life form. Whether or not he is the creation of Professor Gerald known as Project Shadow. Throughout the game, she periodically will peek into the computers on the Ark, trying to find the what Project Shadow is. And she ends up finding that Project Shadow, the only records of Project Shadow on the Ark are related to something called the Bio-Lizard.
Look who's talking. What about you? Here are the results of the research project called the Ultimate Life Form. But if this picture is of the real ultimate life form named Shadow, then exactly who or what is standing in front of me? Do you actually believe that you're the real Shadow?
No
Even
doubt.
your memories might not be real, you know?
Even if my memories are not real, it's still me, Shadow. And I will fulfill my promise to Maria. That's the only thing that matters to me now.
Do you really think that the professor created him, Shadow, to carry out the revenge on all those who live here on Earth?
She literally confronts Shadow on the Ark shortly before the end of the Dark Side story, bringing up the fact that the Project Shadow refers to the Bio-Lizard. That the Project Shadow refers to the Bio-Lizard. And so Shadow is not the ultimate life form that he has been saying he is. And Rouge even brings up that Shadow's memories might not be real. Shadow comes, he seems to be shooken up about this after hearing this, mentioning that, even if my memories are not real, I'm still Shadow the Hedgehog. I will fulfill my promise to Maria. That is all that matters to me. And this is very interesting because this showcases that, yes, his memories are false. His memories are fake. So this is something that goes completely over people's heads for whatever reason. And it went over my head, to be fair, for quite a long time. But to be fair, when I never got this far when I was a young lad. I didn't get this far until I was about 14 or 15. Playing this game all the way back then. And it didn't really click with me because I was only half paying attention. I didn't really notice that Professor Gerald mentions that the gun soldiers, Professor Gerald in his journal mentions that the gun soldiers were there to take custody of the prototype.
I don't quite know what happened or what went wrong. Was it a mistake to create the ultimate life form? I thought it would be something that would benefit mankind, but then the military guards landed on the colony that day. They were sent to destroy the research project that I had been working on. My colleagues at the research facility, my granddaughter, Maria, I hope you are all safe. The colony was completely shut down, probably to keep the prototype from falling into the wrong hands.
And so, you kind of think about this, and when you get to the part in the story, in the final story, where you actually face the Bio-Lizard, Knuckles brings up that the Bio-Lizard is a prototype. But wait, nowhere in the game is it ever said that the Bio-Lizard is a prototype. So where did he get this information? Well, he was listening to Professor Gerald. And Professor Gerald mentions that the gun soldiers were there to take custody of the prototype, and they managed to seal it. They were there for the Biolizard. Shadow was not created yet. This is how they were able to have all those, like, those robots. Because here's the thing that never really made sense to me with the idea that Shadow was created on the Ark. If Shadow witnessed Maria's death, how the fuck did Gunn manage to capture him? I find it hard to believe that they were able to capture the Biolizard, but at least that thing is like this unstable, dying creature that has like a fucking life support thing attached to its back. Maybe they managed to like put an EMP or something that shorted out the life support thing long enough to knock it out. I can at least envision a way that they could capture the Biolizard. I have no idea how they would be able to capture Shadow. Considering that with the 50-year technology gap between when he was supposedly captured and the current day, they can't capture him. They can't catch him at all, even with their strongest technology. So that brings the question of, was he even captured by them at all? And the answer is no. He wasn't captured by them. Because, like, here's the thing that, like, if you watch, like, Everything Wrong with Sonic Adventure 2 by various creators, they always talk about how it doesn't make sense that Professor Gerald managed to, like, mess with Shadow while he was captured. They're always under the assumption that Professor Gerald was captured as soon as he got to the Earth or something. They seem to think that he was on the Ark. And, like, they killed everyone else but captured him. No, he wasn't on the Ark. He had no idea about anything about this going on. He straight up tells us in the final story that he found Maria's name amongst those who had died. That what happened was, like, categorized as an accident.
It was completely shut down, probably to keep the prototype from falling into the wrong hands.
The Ark was shut down under the premise that there had been an accident. I found Maria's name among those who died when the Ark was shut down. She meant everything to me, and I couldn't bear the thought that she died because of my research.
It makes no fucking sense the way that people are reading this. Now, here's a very important thing about Shadow the Hedgehog moving forward. Shadow was supposed to die in Sonic Adventure 2. He was not supposed to come back.
This is my promise I made to you.
So, a lot of the stuff that we get later on in the series, that's all retcons. Shadow, his story, the way it was originally envisioned, he was created after the event on the Ark. It's outright said in Sonic Adventure 2. Not just in the American version either, it's said that way in the Japanese version too. So, like, Shadow was clearly created after the event on the Ark. Then we get, then he comes back in Sonic Heroes, but nothing really happens there in regards to his thing because he has amnesia. He somehow survived falling to the Earth, and he has amnesia now. In Shadow the Hedgehog, you have a ton of different stories you can go down to, many of which have outright contradictions to what is said in Sonic Adventure 2. So in the neutral pathway, for example, when you get to Prison Island, Shadow mentions that he was on not Angel Island, Prison Island. He mentions that he was on Prison Island at some point. That he managed to escape, but Gunn somehow managed to capture him. Thus explaining why he is in his little pod thing in Sonic Adventure 2. And no, it does not make any sense. How was he captured? He's, even with no fucking memories, he's still too powerful for even the most modern version of Gunn, with like antimatter cannons and shit to stop. So you really expect me to believe that Gunn 50 years ago managed to capture him, when he would presumably be at his most angriest after Maria's recent death? Because unless the impact of him landing on Earth in that escape pod managed to knock him out, I don't see how they managed to capture him. So, Shadow the Hedgehog, the game, in particular, has a lot of conflicting evidence, because we see flashbacks and stuff from Black Doom, who apparently donated some of his DNA to Professor Gerald, who used it to create Shadow. And we also get a couple of levels of Shadow running around on the Ark with Maria as a companion character. Those levels are fabrications of Black Doom's mind control over Shadow, because Black Doom has mind manipulation powers over Shadow. We straight up see in one of these levels that Shadow, when he's running around on the Ark, that Maria, basically, the camera cuts away for a second and becomes Black Doom. Or, more specifically, becomes Doom's eye. And this showcases that this event, this isn't really happening. This is mind manipulation by Black Doom. And and also, like, Black Doom, like, a lot of people would probably take his word on stuff. But here's the thing, he's the fucking villain of the game. Why are you taking his word on anything? Like, Shadow has no reason to believe Black Doom on anything. Shadow has no reason to think he is trustworthy, because he fucking isn't. Black Doom is this, like, space dictator guy who is trying to take over the goddamn world. He is trying to manipulate Shadow throughout the entire game to join his side. Why are you people believing him?
Who are you, and how do you know I'm Shadow? What are you talking about?
And here's the thing too, like, Sonic Adventure 2 is not the only game that showcases that that says to us that Shadow was created after the events on the Ark. Sonic Battle does this too. Sonic Battle is a Game Boy Advance game that came out in between Sonic Advance 2 and 3. And in that game, you can get a unlockable series of journal entries written by Professor Gerald. And Professor Gerald mentions that he has started research into Project Shadow. And he has begun development at some point, but he mentions very specifically that he has not finished Project Shadow until after the event that killed Maria. This is the constant between all the shit. Professor Gerald is the most trustworthy person we can think of, that I can think of, in regards to Shadow's backstory, because he fucking created him. He created Shadow the Hedgehog. So a lot of things regarding Shadow's backstory make no fucking sense when you take Shadow's memories into account and Black Doom's, like, manipulation stuff, which may not even be real. So, like, people, for whatever reason, think that Shadow was created on the Ark. That he lived all that time with Maria. That Maria sent him to the ground and all this other stuff. People legitimately think this, and they themselves point out that none of this shit makes any sense. And it's because Shadow wasn't created on the Ark. None of the shit with him and Maria ever happened. These were memories placed into Shadow by Professor Gerald when he was going fucking insane after the death of Maria. Before he could release Shadow. Because here's the other thing. Shadow wasn't released from his creation pod. He was not released. Professor Gerald in the Sonic Adventure 2 final story straight up points out that, like, I have created Project Shadow. I designed its mind to be perfect, pure. I will leave everything to him. If you wish, release and awaken him to the world.
Based on my original projections, I was able to complete my project, Shadow. I designed its mind to be perfect, pure. I will leave everything to him. If you wish, release and awaken it
If
to
you
the
wish
world.
to fill the world with destruction,
Why would Professor Gerald say that if Gunn took custody? Like, if Gunn captured him before Shadow was, like, if Gunn took custody of him when... Why would Professor Gerald say that if Shadow was created on the Ark before Maria's death? Why would he say any of this? Because, like, why would he have any knowledge of whether or not Gunn has taken custody of Shadow? Because why would he know if Shadow survived? The answer is that Shadow wasn't on the Ark. He wasn't there. Hi, so I had a couple of things that I wanted to elaborate on because I thought of some stuff while editing this video. If you couldn't tell by the little additional poster thing here, it's actually been quite a long time since I recorded one of these face cam videos. So, to kind of elaborate on the whole Professor Gerald thing, Professor Gerald definitely encoded his mental state into Shadow after the event on the Ark. Whether or not you wanted to say that Shadow was created on the Ark or not, as I've elaborated in this video, I don't think he was. Shadow's mental state, when you play Sonic Adventure 2, it's very similar to Professor Gerald's mental state. He can no longer control his thoughts. His memories are flipping in and out. All he can think about is revenge, his vengeance, his revengeance. Somebody needs to make a mod of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, but replacing Raiden with Shadow. That would be awesome. Maybe that's already a thing, I don't know. But Shadow's mind in the game is one that is so focused on revenge that he can't really think about anything else. And Shadow's, like, the thing is with Shadow is, as I've kind of said in the video, the only people that claim that Shadow was made on the Ark are people who are unreliable. They are unreliable narrators for this event. And the only people, at least before Shadow Generations, that say this are Shadow himself, which Shadow's memories may not even be real, as pointed out by Rouge, and Black Doom, who's the villain of Shadow the Hedgehog, who literally has mental manipulation abilities when it comes to Shadow, because he literally tries to mind control him in both Shadow the Hedgehog and Shadow Generations. The prequel animation for Shadow Generations literally opens up with Shadow having, like, he's sleeping and he's reliving the events on the Ark, at least as far as he remembers. But things are happening out of order. Things are happening too quickly. Things are happening in ways that they never should have been able to. And it's outright said that it's Black Doom that's causing this. Or at least it's alluded to. And Black Doom is also shown in Shadow Generations to affect time on a similar level to that of the Time Eater. Shadow in Shadow Generations, he's transported to the White World, not because of the Time Eater, but because of Black Doom. Everything in Shadow's White World, in Shadow Generations, is because of Black Doom literally pulling things from Shadow's past. Like, the thing is with Shadow Generations, like I've said, it kind of it kind of retcons some of this. But the thing is that Professor Gerald, before Shadow Generations, was pretty consistent with saying that Shadow was created after the event on the Ark. Sonic Adventure 2 mentions this. Sonic, I think it's Sonic Battle. The one with Emerald. Sonic Battle even says this. You can find journals from Professor Gerald in Sonic Battle that straight up points out that the army, the gun, were there to pick up Emerald because Emerald went nuts or something when he tried to take him apart to experiment on him. And it's not really explained how they managed to get him under control, because they didn't even they weren't even working on Project Shadow at the time. This is outright said in his journal in Sonic Battle. So they weren't even working on That's another thing that kind of hints towards Shadow's memories not being real, because Shadow Generations, the prequel animation, literally shows Shadow and Emerald duking it out, hinting that Shadow fought Emerald. And I think his little notebook thing that comes with Shadow Generations also says this, but in Sonic Battle, it's outright said that they weren't even working on Project Shadow when Emerald went rogue. So, yeah, and his journal in Sonic Battle outright says that the government was there to take the prototype. Sonic Adventure 2 says this too. So, yeah, I don't know. Shadow was not created on the Ark. He just wasn't. Literally everything up until Shadow Generations tells us that he wasn't. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why people think he was, but back to the video. And so this is one of the things that I really don't like about Shadow Generations. It canonizes the fan misconception of Shadow the Hedgehog, that he grew up on the Ark, that he lived all those years with Maria. And I really don't like that. It takes away from what I think was part of the tragedy of his character. Not only that he was haunted by the memories of Maria and all that happened, but that these memories never fucking happened. These memories never happened the way that he sees them. He never was on the Ark. He never met Maria. He never lived all those potential years with Maria on the Ark in any of this shit. Like, don't get me wrong, Shadow Generations does an amazing work with this retconned history with him and Maria. But the thing is that this is a retcon. This is a retcon, and it's a retcon that I feel takes away from a lot of the tragedy of his character. Especially because, like, it's not just his history that's retcon now, it's also Maria's. Because Maria on the Ark in Sonic Adventure 2, it's clear she was never on Earth. There's a cutscene with her, and to be fair, this is a memory cutscene from Shadow, so it's not clear whether or not this actually happened. But if we're gonna go with this new retconned history now, Maria asks Shadow, like, what do you think it's like on Earth? As if she doesn't have any idea what it's like on Earth either. But according to this retconned history of Shadow Generations, which is elaborated much more on in the Professor Gerald's journal in Shadow Generations, Maria was only brought to the Ark recently. She hasn't been there for a long time. Like, she hasn't been on the Ark for a very long stretch of time. So, like, it doesn't make sense that she's saying stuff like this. But, I do love Maria's, because, like, Maria is apparently revealed in Shadow Generations to have been the one to give Shadow his name. And I love the reasoning. Her reasoning is that he was named Shadow because without light there can only be darkness. But a shadow will show you where to find the light. She doesn't want Shadow to live in darkness. She wants him to live in the light. And I love that. I love that fucking reasoning. It adds so much more significance to him being called Shadow. I like to think that she didn't actually come up with the name Shadow. She just, like, thought of, like, some kind of, like, heartwarming reasoning why the name Shadow would be a good thing. Because, like, presumably Shadow his name actually came from Professor Gerald. With him literally creating Project Shadow. But I don't know. The ending of Shadow Generations is also really freaking sad, especially because, like, Shadow had to let go of Maria and Professor Gerald, knowing what would become of them in the future. And we see Shadow cry for the second time in this franchise. And it actually kind of breaks my heart watching it. Like, Shadow... This is kind of a weird thing with Shadow. Like, why is he allowed to cry but Sonic isn't? Fuck you, Ken Penders. Like, you have severely fucked up this franchise. Thank God Sega is actually, like, standing up to your bullshit and having the characters be themselves again. Like, goddamn. But, I think that will do it for this episode. I am very, very glad that Shadow is back to being himself again, even with this revisionist history thing done to his backstory. Like I said, I don't care for this new thing, but, like, Shadow Generations really made it work. I do like it, but, like, I do like a lot of the stuff that Shadow Generations does, but I prefer the idea that Shadow never actually met Maria. That, like, all that stuff in his memories was just fabricated by Professor Gerald, which is outright said in Sonic Adventure 2. So, yeah. Anyway, I will see you guys in my next video. Take care.
He was what he was, a brave and heroic hedgehog who gave his life to save this planet.
Selling a sinking square window. The skies a bit clearer today. The rain has passed me by. I want to open